We are now on to consistence. So consistence is the degree of cohesion and adhesion. So can we deform these PEDs? Do they rupture? Do they stay the way they are? So we have different kinds of consistence. There's dry consistence, wet consistence, and moist consistence. And in all the cases, how you test it is by putting pressure upon the PEDs. So the first one we're going to do is dry because I have a lot of dry PEDs, and then we might get them moist and wet to see if that makes a difference. You just basically take a PED like this one here. I've taken that from that AE layer, and you add some force. So you start just between your fingers and squeeze. And that came apart pretty easily. That was a really gentle force. So this is loose. Like that's coming apart, there's nothing keeping it together. Whereas those PEDs in the AE, and there's probably similar in my AH layer here, yeah, like between my two fingers. So that's a soft, weakly coherent, breaks to a powder under very gentle force. And then you can work it up and it gives you the amount of force it takes, kilograms per meters squared, in terms of like whether you need to go from using your finger and thumb. If you can't break it with your finger and thumb, then you have to go to trying to break it between your hands. If you can't break it with your hands, then you need to go with stepping on it. And you don't stomp, you just sort of put your weight on it, and then you get to the point where you're starting to stamp. And that's like super rigid at that point. So these PEDs all seem to be pretty soft. Let's try these ones down here. Yeah, that was very gentle force going. Oh, these ones are harder. Weakly resistant, easily broken, difficult to break between. Oh, that. Yeah, so these ones are actually hard. Difficult to break between fingers, but easy to break between my hand. So we've got some hard, and then soft, soft, or loose, soft, soft. So that's dry consistence. And then we can start to wet them. So I've got some water over here. And I'm trying to think if I want to pour them on or dunk them or make little plastic balls. So I've taken one of my hard C layer PEDs and I've moistened them, and then seeing if that changes the difficulty. It made it a little easier, but it was still pretty firm. Crushed under gentle to moderate pressure. So the word is friable when it takes a little bit of pressure. So you have loose, very friable, friable, firm, and very firm. So I'm going to say that if that one's friable, and that was my hardest, that these ones are going to be very friable or loose. So like if I take one of these and it just sort of disappears underwater, yeah, no, it's just very friable. And then the next step is to do, oh cool, there's definitely some clay in this layer because it's clouding up the water. The next one I've got over here is wet consistence. Is non-sticky, slightly sticky, sticky, very sticky. So this is taking these wet balls and seeing like if they'll stick together. So these sandy ones, sandy things aren't sticky at all. No material sticks to my fingers. But, I don't know if you guys saw earlier, this one is a little bit sticky. When I squeeze it together, after the release of pressure, practically no material adheres to finger and thumb. Like, but cakes off. Slightly sticky. After pressure has been applied, the soil material adheres to both the thumb and finger, but cakes off one or the other rather cleanly. The soil is not appreciably stretched when digits are separated. So I would say this one is slightly sticky, because it does stick, but it comes off the other hand, and it's not stretching. So like things that are sticky or very sticky, you'll actually like see it like sticking to your fingers, and it'll stretch between your fingers. This isn't stretching between my fingers, but it is sticking to my fingers. As opposed to like this sample that just comes right apart and doesn't stick at all. That's consistence.